shot of what's happening?
That's I didn't even look at slide. We're doing all the comments. Well, I guess I'm representing you. Okay. Citizens Oversight Accountability. Is that Brian?
It is.
It is. Okay. Now, doesn't he usually cover the
Yeah, we're currently live on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter, and then I'll record all of it and upload it first. Yep. Yeah. Oh yeah. And then our offline minute will have there's about a 25-minute video, and I'll start and it's sort of this video later. Adriana, I'm just the behind the scenes techie guy. Hours of extra work because of all the records that we have. So, yeah, we have people running around the floor. People that follow the stores and put model how to get together like wherever it is. It's so ridiculous.
Then I said, can always get back.
Those are all They never called me back.
They never called you back.
There looks to be a Roger guest.
That messes up.
Yeah, we wandered all the walls, trying to find a quick somewhere. So I don't have any line out. I threw a mic right on your other speaker, and I've got 3 other cameras going, all together. All good. I don't have anything. But if you got this, yeah, well, Brian's got 2 devices, and I've got 4. With all of this stuff. I probably just it'll be good. If people want to really hear about us, yeah, so I started. Oh, yeah. Like, she got sick, she's in Vegas, and she wanted to come today. And I said, well, I can't do it. And so we put another week. And I just get it on first. Yep. But, yeah, it's hard to get through. Yeah, yep, I've been for a long time. Yeah, that's following all that physics. I go over and go 40 or we got the history. Yeah, you guys were like right in the thick of it. If you know that's nuts, man. You guys were so close to that stuff. Oh, I was right on the border. Right on. I could look into the Lebanese village. And, but I mean, the IDF were there too, right? So, you guys there to see family? Oh, yeah. Good. But no, she just wants to be around. It's like me and people that are standing up together. Going on there. Make it believe it is a beautiful place. That's going to be where we get our are you guys like out of like the dangerous area? So, you know, in the interview, it's like like really. So there is no. I mean, Israel is so tiny, indicated this part. But in terms of like, yeah, I don't think so. Not with the idea. Like everybody's there. And everybody, they are not going to be there every day. There are absolutely if somebody's going to attack them, they're going to attack back. So I'm not worried. awesome. Anyways, we had a place to stay. I got to meet the sound guys. Like, they didn't want me to know anything. But I got a call. It's like, sound guy. So, now,
They won't learn how to officially start.
not 1:15.
Yeah, okay. What's up, Mr. Mayor? Hello, it's Bentley. What's up?
Bentley? Chris? Nice to meet you, dude. Like your shirt.
You're doing all the
Oh, are you running this?
Yeah.
Very cool.
Slide this way.
Hey, Danny. Here with Bentley.
Yep, Matt Bentley and I are running the projector in a bit with a 25-minute video that we'll play on there. So go get that for you. And then, yeah, I got like 3 or 4 cameras recording. I'll edit it and post later. And live streaming for our viewers for whoever.
You're doing so far.
Probably barely any.
5?
So, yeah.
I really hope so.
Seven. There's nothing. I put it together. It's 25 minutes. I wanted 2013 Silverado. So I'm gonna, yeah, dude, I what if I did it all the time? Throw ball, left it, and just came straight here. So I hadn't even have to like yeah, I got it in all the back. But walk side is the same, but there's no mechanical I gotta do. I think you can external now. So and then it's not too bad. It's in yeah, again, things are running and I'm getting on behind everything prior to the insurance pay and stuff. Like what I did was I looked at everybody like I'll get it back out and then next week I'll do is go to everybody. So that may give me a whole week to get everything going and then I'll get it.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much for taking time out of your Saturday to join us here today. Just wanted to welcome everyone. Let everyone know there's refreshments in the back as you mingle, find a seat, and so on. We have hot dogs and tea, coffee, and so on. So just wanted to pass that on, and we'll be getting started momentarily. Thanks so much for joining us.
Good here, we're starting up. How's the Android going? Right, good. When the video goes live, I'll probably grab this and do the next one. This, yeah, look at the far side.
probably turn the projector on. It's going to be like 8 minutes. You know.
I am always working.
Oh, very much. I'm gonna go take some people out. No.
everybody. My name is Charles Borg, and I will be the moderator for today's event. Just wanted to give a kind 5 to 10 minutes, 5 to 10 minutes out from starting. So if everyone can try and find a seat, we're setting up some additional seating here. It's a good turnout. We appreciate your attendance today. So the next 5 to 10 minutes we'll get started, and yes, just want to introduce myself and thank you again for coming.
I'll try to get everyone's good stuff. That's right. It's good, man. It's good. Like those cameras you got going. It works. Well, those guys always have them like down here. They're sitting there. So that I know it's like right up the hospitals. No. Yes. Yeah. Listen, I can feel it. No, he's going to cut it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Look at the whole chair.
Why don't you take one? Yeah,
That's on camera.
on in our community in the last month and a half, and there's been so many questions and concerns and frustrations, and we thought it might be a great idea to A, have a venue that's big enough to never turn anyone away, and B, have some representatives on stage to be able to chat with us, have some questions, mingle afterwards, because a lot of the meetings that we've been going to have been very structured and formal, and you get 3 minutes if you're lucky. So thank you so much for coming. We really appreciate the turnout. I wrote
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, we're starting the we're going to start the afternoon now, so I do please ask for some quietness here in the corner. There'll be ample time to mingle and talk afterwards, so please let's keep the volume down and let's get the show started. Thank you.
Thank you, Charles. Charles will be emceeing for us. We appreciate that. Yeah, so we're going to have about a 20-minute presentation start here soon, and then we'll invite our guests up to the stage, and then have some questions and answers, and then also some engagement from the floor for anybody that has questions. I just also wanted to say, too, that one of the things that's been most inspiring in the last month and a half is how the community has really come together on local issues that really affect all of us. And I know that not everybody sitting even in this room or on Facebook or even in the CVRD building are all going to have the same views and opinions on everything, and I really feel like that's fine. That's not what we're here for. We're here for the local issues at hand, and so I just want to say thank you so much for being here. And with that, we will get started.
Welcome, and thanks for joining us. We're fortunate to call the Cowichan Valley home. Before we jump into how local government works today, let's start with where it came from. The regional district system was created by the province of British Columbia in the 1960s to help communities work together to deliver local services. The Cowichan Valley Regional District, or CVRD, was officially established in 1967. Today, it includes 9 electoral areas, 4 municipalities, and serves roughly 95,000 residents. The map on screen shows how those communities fit together across our region. And that's the system we're going to explore today. So how does all of this work? We'll be keeping things pretty simple today, because explaining every detail of the CVRD could easily take the entire afternoon. The reality is that regional government is considerably more complicated than a typical municipality. But don't worry, we're going to break it down one piece at a time. And for any kids in the audience, see if you can count all the stick people frolicking through the slides. Let's begin. As I was saying, does this diagram look clear as mud? Don't worry, we're about to break it down piece by piece. By the end of the presentation, it'll make a lot more sense than it does right now. Take a look at this property. Seems simple enough. A house, a creek, some trees. Now look at all the dots. Each one represents a rule, permit, regulation, or authority that may apply to what happens on that property. Some of those rules come from the province, others come from local government, and sometimes they overlap. Quite a lot. In fact, at some point it starts looking less like a property and more like somebody spilled government all over it. The important takeaway is this: local governments don't make decisions in a vacuum. They're constantly working within rules created by higher levels of government. Let's start at the top, the federal government. The federal government is responsible for things like national defense, criminal law, immigration, banking, foreign affairs, and indigenous affairs. Most of those responsibilities don't directly affect your local zoning bylaw or neighborhood park. But the federal government still has significant influence. Why? Money. Federal grants help fund infrastructure projects across the country. Those grants are often tied to priorities such as climate action, active transportation, energy efficiency, or other national objectives. Local governments may receive funding to build projects, but they're usually responsible for operating and maintaining them long after the grant money is gone. So what does federal funding look like in practice? Programs from the federal government have helped support projects right here in the Cowichan Valley. Things like infrastructure upgrades, recycling improvements, transportation projects, and public facilities. Federal funding can cover a substantial portion of the cost, allowing projects to move forward much sooner than they otherwise might. Supporters argue these programs help communities build important infrastructure faster. Critics point out that funding often comes attached to broader policy goals and priorities. Either way, grants have become an important part of how many local projects are funded today. Now let's move down one level, the provincial government. The province has enormous influence over local government, housing, transportation, environmental regulations, natural resources, infrastructure planning. Many of the rules that local governments follow originate in Victoria. And when the province changes legislation or policy direction, local governments are often expected to adjust their own bylaws and plans to match. So while local councils and regional directors make many decisions, they're often operating within a framework established by the province. The province doesn't just create rules, it also helps pay for projects. Provincial grants support everything from emergency preparedness and recreation facilities to transportation projects, water systems, environmental initiatives, and infrastructure upgrades. In most cases, the grant covers part of the cost. The remainder is funded locally through taxes, borrowing, utility fees, or a combination of all three. Programs such as the Growing Communities Fund, Fire Smart funding, emergency preparedness grants, and disaster assistance programs have all helped support projects throughout the Cowichan Valley. For many communities, these grants can mean the difference between doing a project now or waiting years to afford it. So how does the province actually exercise authority over local governments? Primarily through legislation. Laws such as the Local Government Act and the Community Charter establish the powers, responsibilities, and procedures that local governments must follow. Municipalities generally operate under both the Community Charter and the Local Government Act. Regional districts, such as the CVRD, operate primarily under the Local Government Act and their founding documents. The province can also change those powers through new legislation. Recent examples include Bills 44, 46, and 47, which introduce significant changes related to housing, zoning, and local planning processes. We'll take a closer look at those next. Before we talk about recent legislation, we need to talk about one of the documents that created the CVRD itself. These documents are known as letters patent. Think of them as the CVRD's birth certificate. They were issued by the province when the Cowichan Valley Regional District was created in 1967. The letters patent established things such as the CVRD's boundaries, electoral areas, governance structure, and the services it is authorized to provide. While the Local Government Act provides the general rules for regional districts across British Columbia, the letters patent are the specific founding documents for the Cowichan Valley Regional District. Recent legislation provides a good example of how the province can influence local decision-making. Bills 44, 46, and 47 introduced major changes related to housing, development, and local planning. Bill 44 required local governments to allow more housing density in many residential areas and removed some public hearing requirements. Bill 46 changed how local governments collect development-related funding and plan for future infrastructure costs. Bill 47 focused on transit-oriented development and encouraging higher density housing near major transit corridors. Supporters view these changes as a way to increase housing supply and streamline development. Critics argue they reduce local discretion over planning decisions. Regardless of where someone stands politically, these changes significantly increase provincial influence over local planning and zoning. And the story doesn't end there. Bill 13 expanded on many of the changes already introduced through Bills 44, 46, and 47. In practical terms, it gives the province additional authority to direct, standardize, and enforce housing-related planning requirements. For local governments, that means increased pressure to ensure bylaws, zoning regulations, housing plans, and development approvals align with provincial expectations and timelines. In many ways, Bill 13 acts as a follow-up piece of legislation, helping the province implement and enforce the broader housing reforms introduced over the last several years. Now let's look at how the organization itself is structured. At the top are the elected directors. Residents elect directors to represent their communities and make policy decisions on their behalf. But the directors don't directly supervise hundreds of employees. Instead, they have one direct employee, the Chief Administrative Officer, or CAO. The board provides direction, the CAO manages the organization, and the rest of the staff work under the CAO's leadership. It's a structure designed to separate political decision-making from day-to-day administration. So who actually sits around the CVRD board table? Each of the 9 electoral areas elects one director. The municipalities also participate through representatives appointed from their local councils. That means North Cowichan, Duncan, Ladysmith, and Lake Cowichan all have seats at the table. The reason is simple. Many services, infrastructure projects, and regional decisions affect both municipal and rural residents. Because populations differ across the region, representation is not always equal. Larger communities often have greater representation than smaller ones. And as we'll see later, that can also affect voting strength in certain situations. The Chief Administrative Officer, or CAO, is the highest ranking staff member in the organization. Unlike directors, the CAO is not elected by the public. The position is hired by the board. Think of the CAO as the organization's chief executive. They oversee daily operations, manage departments and staff, implement board decisions, coordinate major projects, and provide advice to directors. Under the CAO are departments responsible for planning, operations, utilities, parks, recreation, emergency management, corporate services, and much more. While directors decide where the ship is going, the CAO is responsible for helping steer it there. Another important position within local government is the corporate officer. The corporate officer is responsible for the legal and procedural side of administration. Their job is to help ensure the organization follows the rules established under provincial legislation. They manage official records, agendas, meeting minutes, bylaws, elections, public notices, freedom of information requests, and meeting procedures. If the directors are making decisions, the corporate officer helps ensure those decisions are made properly and legally. Then we have the Chief Financial Officer, often called the CFO. As you might expect, the CFO is responsible for the organization's financial management. That includes budgets, financial reporting, taxation, audits, investments, borrowing, and long-term planning. When major projects are proposed, the CFO helps evaluate the financial impacts and advises the board on costs, risks, and long-term sustainability. In short, the CFO helps answer one very important question. Can we actually afford this? The chair of the CVRD serves a different role. Unlike a mayor, the chair is not elected directly by the public. Instead, the directors elect one of their own members to serve as chair each year. The chair runs board meetings, maintains order and procedure, signs official documents, represents the organization publicly, and works closely with the CAO. During meetings, public comments and questions are generally directed through the chair rather than directly to staff or individual directors. You can think of the chair as the person responsible for keeping the meeting moving and making sure everyone follows the rules of the game. One thing many people don't realize is that not every decision is voted on by everyone. Who gets a vote often depends on which area or service is affected. For example, zoning and land use decisions in the electoral areas are generally voted on by the electoral area directors. Municipalities such as Duncan, Ladysmith, and North Cowichan manage their own zoning through their municipal councils. The same principle applies to many services. If an area participates in a service and helps pay for it, that area typically gets a vote on matters affecting that service. General board business is usually voted on by all directors, but for some issues, only the communities directly affected get a seat at the voting table. Most votes of the CVRD are straightforward. One director, one vote. But for certain financial and regional service decisions, a system called weighted voting can be used. Instead of every director having identical voting strength, votes are weighted based on factors such as population and tax contribution. That means larger communities may carry more voting weight than smaller ones. Weighted voting is relatively uncommon. Most decisions are still made using the standard one director, one vote approach. But when major financial decisions are involved, population can matter. Now let's talk about everyone's favorite subject, budgets. Try to contain your excitement. Many people assume the CVRD operates with one large budget. It doesn't. The organization actually manages 179 separate services and budgets. Things like parks, planning, recreation, recycling, fire protection, water systems, and sewer utilities all have their own financial accounts. Under provincial legislation, each service budget must balance. A service can't simply run a deficit and expect another service to cover the difference. It makes budgeting considerably more complicated, but it also helps ensure that one service isn't quietly subsidizing another behind the scenes. So where does all that money actually go? The majority of the CVRD spending goes toward core services that operate year after year. Staff, utilities, parks, recreation, recycling, fire protection, infrastructure maintenance, and all the other services residents rely on every day. Before new projects are considered, the organization must first maintain existing service levels and replace aging infrastructure where needed. In other words, before buying new things, local government has to keep the lights on. Of course, none of those services are free. So where does the money come from? The largest source of revenue is property taxation. After that come user fees and utility charges for services such as water, sewer, recreation, transit, and recycling. The remaining funding comes from grants, reserves, investments, and borrowing. This mix of funding sources is one reason tax and utility costs can vary significantly from one community to another. Different areas participate in different services, and different services are funded in different ways. That's why two neighbors living in different parts of the Cowichan Valley can receive different bills while receiving different combinations of services. Bylaws don't appear out of thin air. They're usually guided by much larger planning documents. Things like official community plans, transportation plans, climate plans, regional growth strategies, and long-term strategic plans help shape future decisions. These documents often influence policy years before a bylaw ever reaches a council chamber or board meeting. Housing, transportation, agriculture, infrastructure, parks, growth. Many of those conversations begin inside planning documents long before the public notices a specific proposal. So if you thought a zoning bylaw was a big document, Some of these planning documents can make it look like light reading.
So far, we've looked at how local government is structured, who makes decisions, who administers those decisions, and how services are funded. But where do residents fit into the picture? How can people participate? How can they be heard? And how can they help shape decisions affecting their communities? Let's take a look. One way residents can participate outside of elections is through committees. Many municipalities appoint members of the public to advisory committees that focus on topics such as agriculture, accessibility, the environment, parks, planning, and other community issues. Residents can apply when positions become available and council selects committee members. These committees often help review ideas, provide feedback, and shape long-term planning before recommendations reach council. At the CVRD, committees work a little differently. Many are made up primarily of elected directors rather than public appointees. Even so, residents can still participate through written submissions, public input opportunities, delegations, emails, and by attending meetings. If you want to know what local government is planning before decisions are made, start with the agenda. Both the CVRD and local municipalities typically publish meeting agendas before upcoming meetings. Those agendas often include reports, maps, presentations, bylaws, recommendations, and supporting documents. In many cases, the public can see what is being discussed days before the meeting actually takes place. For residents trying to stay informed, agendas are one of the most useful tools available because it's much easier to follow a decision before it's made than after it's already happened. Another way residents can participate is by speaking at meetings. Both North Cowichan and the CVRD allow public participation during designated portions of their meetings. Speakers are generally expected to comment on items that appear on that meeting's agenda. Residents can often participate in person, by phone, through written submissions, or by emailing council members and directors. And even if you don't speak publicly, written comments can still become part of the public record and help inform decision makers. You don't have to stand at a microphone to have your voice heard. For those who want more than a few minutes at the microphone, there's another option: a delegation. A delegation is a formal presentation made directly to council or the CVRD board. Typically, presenters are given about 10 minutes to speak on a topic, proposal, concern, or community issue. Requests are submitted in advance and must be approved before being scheduled. Delegations can be one of the most direct ways to present information and ideas to elected officials. If public participation is having your voice heard, a delegation is your opportunity to take the floor. Sometimes the best way to understand a decision is to see the records behind it. That's where freedom of information requests come in. A well-written request can help residents access records such as emails, reports, contracts, invoices, and other government documents. The key is specificity. The more focused your request is, the more likely you'll receive useful results quickly. Broad requests can take longer, cost more, and often require clarification. When in doubt, it can be helpful to contact legislative services first. A little planning up front can save a lot of time later. And this brings us to perhaps the most important point in the entire presentation. Local government is where big picture ideas become real world decisions. Housing, transportation, growth, parks, taxes, utilities, infrastructure. Sooner or later, those discussions arrive at the local level. Whether someone supports or opposes a particular policy, many of the decisions that affect daily life are ultimately made by local governments. Yet local elections often attract far fewer voters than provincial or federal elections. In many communities, only about 1/4 to 1/3 of eligible voters participate. That means a relatively small number of people can have a significant impact on decisions that affect everyone. Your local vote matters far more than many people realize. Thank you for taking the time to learn more about local government. Thank you for being engaged. And thank you for helping strengthen local democracy here in the Cowichan Valley. An informed community is a stronger community. But wait, we're not quite finished yet. Have questions about something you've seen today? Want clarification on a policy, a budget, a process, or perhaps one of those mysterious government acronyms? Now is your opportunity. The floor is open for questions. Welcome, and thank you very much.
Very nice presentation. I would strongly recommend including this into the school curriculum because we could learn a few things about local government Great, so we'll move on to the next stage in our presentation here. I'm going to welcome some guests that we have here to come up to the panel's table. I have Mr. Ian Morrison, Mr. Jesse McClinton, Mr. Mike Callio, Mr. Mike Wilson, Mr. Joe Allen. I'm not sure if a Mr. Brooke Hodson is here or a Mr. Lauren Duncan. So would you like to come up? No pressure, you can stay if you like. Okay, we got that. Awesome. And then is Mark Huber. Huber, you here? No? Okay. I just want to make sure enough chairs up there. So. That's a good question. I'll have to come back to that. And thank you for reminding me that actually before I come on, I have to wake up. I do want to clarify something that may have been misspoken in our presentation. Ladysmith is a town, Duncan is a city, and Lake Cowichan is also a town. Just in case it was wrong, we just wanted to clarify that, that's all. Awesome. Well, gentlemen, thank you very much for joining us this afternoon. Before we go into our question and answers period, I just want to quickly open the floor for our panelists to kind of introduce themselves. It'll be great if you can state which position you currently or have in the past held. And we'll start off with Mr. Ian Morrison. So we'll go with the yellow mic.
Testing. Did everybody hear me? Yeah. Fantastic. So just so you know, I was elected, my name is Ian Morrison. I'm the director for Cowichan Lake South Scotts Falls, which is known as Area F, and I was elected in 2008. And I just want to share the fact that I kind of do things old school, and what I wanted to do right at the get-go was firstly thank Charles and the organizers and all of you for coming out tonight. So let's and as part of my upbringing, I was also told that when you're in a room with other elected officials, that it's important to acknowledge other people that hold positions similar to yourself. And I'm looking over, I see Councillor Findlay from Municipal in North Cowichan here. And anyone else that elected officials in the room here today with us? Who do we got in the back? No? Okay, right on. So I'm going to be... let me start with this. The question posed to me is, what was it like when I was first running for office, and what were my thoughts? And then, what's it like now that I've been there for a little bit? I'm gonna step back, go to maybe a 30 or 40,000 foot level and say, it's about you. It's about people. And I was maybe not as typical today when I first ran for office, because I was encouraged to serve on a couple of those committees that were spoken about in the presentation. I went and served on the Area Parks Commission and ultimately became the chair. And then I served on the Area Advisory and Planning Commission and ultimately became the chair of that commission in a volunteer capacity. So 10 years ago, if you were to poll the electoral area area directors at the CVRD and asked them, how many of you have served in a volunteer capacity, either on the Parks or Advisory Planning Commission? And easily 2/3 would have put up their hand. They would have come up through that knowledge and experience and volunteering. Today, I would suspect it's probably the inverse. Maybe 1/3 of us have served in that volunteer capacity. So what's the difference? What helps someone to become effective in this job, to be able to serve their clients? And I'll go back to something that I was taught very early on, not only by the guy sitting to the left of me, Mr. Allen, but recently past Director Mary Marcotte. And Mary Marcotte taught me that my job is to try and make the lives of the people I represent a little bit better each day. That's my job. So I can tell you that when I was first running for office, I already knew that I had to be good at talking with people, but even better, even more so, I had to be better at listening to people. And not only talking and listening, but I had to be willing to hear what people were sharing with me. Because in local government, it's different than any other form of government because it's nonpartisan. It's supposed to be apolitical. So in our system, if you want to be effective, you have to be able to work with people that you may not agree with politically. And the people that do this job well and represent their residents the best are the people that can disagree politely, politically with their colleagues, but can still get the work of the community done. So for those of you that might be contemplating running for office, it's not the person that's the smartest in the room. It's not the person that's the best union organizer. It's not the person with the most degrees behind their name. It's the person that can talk with and listen to the people in their community and who can go and represent those interests, working with a group of a bunch of very different and diverse people. So I'll end there. Once again, thank you all for coming out. I think this is amazing. Thank you.
Thank you so much. That was great. And no, absolutely. And since we do have councillors past and present, it's good that you make some recognition. Yes, we have Mr. John Corey, who's the North Cowichan Council. In the back, we also have Miss oh my goodness. Joyce Benson. Wow. I'm in the moment. North Cowichan Council as well. So like I said, lots of past and present councillors here. If you guys want to post them at the end, feel free to start a conversation. Lots of wisdom, lots of knowledge there as well. Okay, so we'll move on to Mr. Jesse McClinton. If you can just let everyone know what position you currently hold or have held. And if you don't mind talking a little bit about commitment as well, as either a councillor or a director, what kind of commitment is involved?
Sure. Yeah, thanks. Well, first of all, great to see everybody out here. This is tremendous to get a group of people like this on a Saturday to come and listen and talk about politics. So just quickly a little bit about me. This is my first term. I'm director for Area G, which is Saltaire and the Gulf Islands, which include Reed Island, Venus Island, and Ellicott. There's about 5,000 people in Area G, and it's one of the larger areas. My slogan or tagline for my campaign was unity through community. And, I wanted to go with enough is enough, but my committee didn't think that was a pretty good tagline. So I think one of the most important things, an idea that I've been kind of playing around with as a director, especially at the CVRD, is confrontational collaboration. I think there's a real sort of push-pull dynamic where we need to have a good working relationship with the staff in order to get things done. I've got some pretty amazing projects happening in Saltaire with a partnership with Ladysmith. We're redoing the Stocking Neck Dam, we're redoing our water filtration. Those projects alone are well over $10 million in funding that has been put towards them. So you need to have that relationship, but also you got to hold staff accountable. And so there's this really challenging dynamic that you've got to be able to balance. And the same thing happens with the fellow directors at the table. So you gotta be okay with the people that you're working with every day, pushing back, saying, no, this isn't good, but then also, you know, being able to collaborate to move projects forward. So, you know, I joke, but it's somewhat true, and it's just the reverse of what Ian was saying. You know, my goal is to make the least amount of people angry. and it's about listening to people, you know, focusing on the big projects. Out of the gate, you know, there was some pretty, you know, pretty tense moments in Solitaire. Like, you know, I got involved for what would seem to be a silly reason, but our baseball league was going to get shut down. Had been, you know, beer league that had been happening for over 50 years, and I just thought to myself, what the heck? Who's doing this? And that's where I really sort of popped my head up and started to take notice. And you know, even being a bit of a political junkie, I knew so little about the government structure of the CVRD, and it's been a real crash course. So, in terms of the commitment, you know, I'm one of the few people with a full-time employment, so it is a real challenge. Like, you know, our meetings now are every Wednesday at 9:30. They nuke a whole day of work. You know, and I don't have any problem with folks that are retired, you know, giving back. I think that makes a lot of sense. But you know, it takes as much time as my company. I've got a dozen employees, and there's just a lot to do to stay connected with people. So, but I love it. I like the challenge. I think that's one thing that I'm good at is helping to bridge differences and to sort of bring down the temperature and to, you know, pull out the meaningful pieces of information that people sort of bring to the table, both as residents and as board members. So, yeah, just a real privilege to be here today, and it is my daughter's 7th birthday today, so her party starts at 3 o'clock, so I'll be sticking around for a little bit after, but just so you know, if you see me duck out, that's the reason why. So, thanks again.
Awesome. And our next guest that we have here is Mr. Callio. If you can just tell us what position you both serve, and if memory serves me correct, you are currently on the CVRD board. If you can maybe discuss that a little bit, like what's the difficulties and challenges, what's your experience sitting on the CVRD board?
Yeah, thanks. Again, thank you everybody for coming out today. It's fantastic to see everybody so committed to come out and find out what's going on in their community. I mean, we've seen that recently with the actions that have happened in front of the CVRD building, and the commitment that we see from the public to come out and find out exactly what's going on with the facilities and the dollars that they're investing as taxpayers in the CVRD. And, you know, being a municipality representative on the CVRD, it's considerably different than our last two speakers. You know, you kind of have to have two hats, because you have to make sure that you, first of all, are looking after the residents in your own community, but then you also have to be cognizant of the fact that you're representing people from all over the CVRD, from out to the west coast to north to the top of Mellor.
No, you represent us.
So anyway, back to the subject, and also the people who are out in Solitaire, and so this is something you have to also, you know, keep in mind while you're at that table, and make sure that you keep an eye to both sides and try to skirt and almost walk a knife edge between the two, because you have to make sure that you're representing, like I say, both sides. It's you know what? It's a challenge, and when I first got onto the CVRD, I found it very, I wouldn't say overwhelming, but it was all-encompassing. When you sat at that table, and as I sit at this table like I do it at the table at the CVRD, I have both these gentlemen beside me, and these two gentlemen here really helped me get through being a new director at the CVRD. They gave me advice and helped me, you know, do the best job I possibly could for the residents out here, for the CVRD, and also for the municipality of North Cowichan. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Callio. We have two more guests on our panel table today. Gentlemen, we're just running a little bit behind time. If I could just get you just to state your name and what position you held or currently hold, that'd be great. I have Mr. Joe Allen and Mr. Lauren Duncan. Hey, Joe, we'll go with you, sir.
Hello. Joe Allen. I represented electoral area F for 22 years at the CVRD. I got elected in 1986, and I was there until 2008. And area F is the biggest one you see on that map. And it's had only 2 directors continuously for 40 years. That's Ian and myself. So we've actually, it's the most stable area. So that's, and thanks for coming, everybody. Anything I can do to help? Where it is? Well, area F is actually the biggest electoral area. It's almost half the physical size of the CVRD. And that's what area F is. And it has the second least amount of people. And remember that thing about how you vote? So Ian gets to stick his hand up and he gets 1, even though it's half the size. And how, sorry, one thing is, when I first got elected, budgeting, here's how it was described to me. The CVRD set up with all those budgets. Well, if you run out of toilet paper in the bathroom, you can't go to the kitchen and get some paper towel because each one is set up on its own. You don't pay, you don't play. So it's very simple. But our big area, we pay a lot of taxes and we don't really get a lot of say and stuff. So it's one of the flaws of the system.
Thank you, Mr. Allen. Thank you for being here. And my apologies, Mr. Wilson, I did skip over you. I'll just give you the floor now, if you don't mind just letting us know what position you currently hold.
Yeah, thank you very much. I'm Mike Wilson, I'm the CVRD Director for excuse me, Cobble Hill. And I've been elected there since 2018. This is my second term coming towards the end of it, and I'll be running again next year to keep things, I think, going in the direction that I want them to. But thank you all for coming. This is really good, a great turnout. And also, the video that was just shown there is probably one of the best that I've seen for a long, long time. I'm going to see if I can get a copy of that, put it up on Facebook pages, and send a copy to the CVRD Communications. As far as my background is concerned, from the age of 18, I was in the British Merchant Navy, radio electronics officer, and finally chief cable engineer and digital fiber optics. And I ran my own consultancy company from 1999 to 2018. And the question that I've been asked to answer is, what is your favourite and least favourite part of the job? And I basically like people. Some people I don't like, and unfortunately I can't hide that very well. But I do enjoy working with people. There's a lot of diverse opinions out there. And one of the things that Ian said is, can you listen to them? You can hear them, but listening to them and hearing them and then making sure that you understand what they're trying to impress upon you is sometimes very difficult. And it's an art that I've worked on, and I'm getting there slowly. But some of the things I don't enjoy is sometimes there are things which I feel very, very passionate about. And yet we have a whole board of 16 that sometimes don't share those views. And what I believe in is not approved, which can be very frustrating. Having said that, if I'm very passionate about something and it gets voted through, that's even better. So I'll leave it at that, and I'll be happy to answer any questions later. Thank you.
And I'll give the mic now to Mr. Lauren Duncan. Just if you can explain what position you have held or do hold, we appreciate it.
Thanks. 1999, I was elected. 15 years later, I was not elected. I had a good run there. One of the things that I learned and was taught, you need to be a bit pragmatic to function and be effective. If you black and white, yes and no, who struggle. They have to be able to have a little yes, a little no, sometimes. Pragmatism is very important, in my opinion. Ian had land grant. Most of you know a little bit about it, some of you know more. It makes us different when we listen to the different bills, 44, 47, 13. Those are for the rest of the province. 94% of the province is public land. In the Indian land grant, none of them is public land, and they've been selling it back to us ever since. It makes issues around land and land use much more complicated than in other places in the province. And we need to recognize that, we need to understand that. It makes it complicated for First Nations, it makes it complicated for all of us. So I'll leave it at that. It's just an important thing in my mind and my experiences.
Thank you, gentlemen, for being here, taking time out of your day. So before we get going into the question and answer period, which of course is the meat and potatoes of this afternoon, I just wanted to say a few words. So before we begin, I would like to set a few expectations to ensure respectful and productive discussion. Our guests here tonight, or this afternoon I should say, are participating as individuals. They are speaking from their own knowledge, experience, and personal perspectives. They are not here in an official capacity representing the Cowichan Valley Regional District or any other entity. This is a civics-focused discussion, not an all-candidates meeting. The purpose this afternoon is to better understand how local government works, specifically what directors can and cannot do, as well as the many areas where they do have real authority. Local government is often where broader provincial and federal policies are actually implemented. In many ways, this is where those larger decisions hit the ground and affect day-to-day life in our communities. Another goal of this afternoon is to help people feel more informed and engaged ahead of future elections. Local election results are often decided by very small margins. In the past elections across this region, some director and council positions have been decided by just a few dozen or a few hundred votes. That means individual participation truly matters, and understanding the role of local government is a key part of that. We ask that all questions remain focused on policy, governance, taxation, and how decisions are made. Personal questions or questions directed at individuals in a personal or adversarial way will not be permitted. We also ask that this not be used as a forum to educate or brief the guests on broader or external policy matters. If you have materials or information you would like to share, we encourage you to do so outside of this setting, either by contacting them in their official capacity or at another appropriate time when they are open to that discussion. We also recognize that local government is complex. Our guests are not expected to have every answer to every question. If something cannot be answered tonight or this afternoon, that is completely acceptable. Finally, we ask everyone to keep comments respectful and concise so that as many people as possible have the opportunity to participate. Thank you. And with that, we'll open the floor to any questions. We have a microphone set up right here in your left-hand corner. So if anyone wants to ask a question to our panelists, feel free to line up, and I will let you know if you can ask the question. Perfect. So we have someone here. I'll ask you, if you don't mind, just to please state your name and where you're coming from, if you don't mind me asking.
Hello?
And and your question, please.
All right, I'm from Port Alberni. My name is Charlene. I'm on the Improvement District. I'm a trustee for the Improvement District for the local water board in Cherry Creek. We're in, and anyways, my question is the CVRD, which is the Alberni Cloud Regional District around Port Alberni, who received the third worst report for political activities last year, has seen an increase from a staff of 8 employees. I believe it's from 2008 to almost 60 employees presently. The population has increased, by maybe 1,000 people. I don't know the exact numbers, but it's very, very minimal. So my question is, has the CVRD seen a large increase in employees in the last few years?
I'll open the floor if anyone wants to either weigh in or answer.
Thank you, and great question, and I think I can't answer specifically about the CVRD and its exact staffing levels, but I want to share something that a number of us learned about and experienced just a little while ago at the Vancouver Island Economic Alliance Forum. And that was that at the onset of COVID, there was a big shift from skilled people who were working in local government and other school districts and the likes, left the public service and went and sought career advancement within the private sector. And I can tell you that during COVID and coming out of COVID, there were a number of positions at our local government that went unfilled because there were people that were making some pretty darn good money in the private sector. In the last year or two, and I'm sure my colleagues can confirm this, that's changed. And a lot of people that were making really good money in the private sector have now seemed to be heading back towards the public sector, not just local government, but school districts, hospitals, and the like. And I would say that there's almost full employment in our local government. So what you've noticed absolutely is true, but I think it's part of a broader trend from people migrating back from the private sector into public sector jobs.
Okay, well, that's not the case in Port Alberta area.
Sorry, Natalie, just if you want to just to weigh in, and we'll bring it back. Thank you.
Yeah, again, a lot of this is just some of my personal take, but I do know that between full-time and contractors, roughly there's a little over 400 people that are involved with the CVRD in a professional capacity, so it's substantial. I do think that there has been some services that have moved from Municipal to the CVRD, so that's part of it. Like regional recreation would be a good example of that. So the size and the scope of the responsibilities of the CVRD has increased. I do think though it certainly outpaced demographics and what people can sort of afford. And one of the things I think happens, I'm just speculating here, but is if you move some of those services from say Ladysmith and Duncan and North Cowichan to the CVRD, their tax burden goes down, but they quickly find reasons to use those dollars that were left behind. So yeah, I think folks are commenting on that in general, and I think there's more focus being put on that, and I suspect that will be part of the upcoming election.
Thank you.
If I could. Just a little bit from the past. So I'm 18 years past when I was last elected. 18 years ago, there was whole departments at the CVRD now that weren't there when I was there. So you're right, there is a lot of difference like that. Now it might be for a good reason, but there was no environmental department when I left. Now there's 7 people in it. Not saying it's good or bad, it's just there's whole departments now that have come because of legislation or something. So a lot more people are there now than there was when I was there.
So thanks so much, guys. Appreciate that. Also, move to our next question. Name where it comes from. Answer.
I'm BJI. I am in Area B that I'm much closer to Cowville. I've been rereading the OCP and a lot of documents in the last few weeks, and I'm a bit confused about how the local area plans relate to like the OCP and just the broader government. How do those things connect? Yeah. Thank you.
Anyone can maybe spearhead this answer?
Yeah, thanks for that. I can only speak for the LAP in Cobble Hill. Cobble Hill, in terms of area, is probably one of the smaller areas, but it's also one of the most populated. And most of the accommodation buildings are fairly well concentrated already. Most of it is ALR and ALC, which we need to protect big time. The farmers need a lot more help than what they're getting. My area, I'm speaking to somebody that can't grow anything. But my local area plan actually has a growth containment boundary, which is located within the services that we can provide, but still separated from this total densification that everybody's trying to get. So as far as my local area plan is concerned, I like it. We've got some very good services down there for sewage and water and everything else. I wish I could speak for Area B. I can't. I concentrate on mine, but as far as I'm concerned, Area C is looking pretty good right now. You're coming back again.
I guess we're all moving Area C.
It's really a broader question than specifically one area A or B or C or any of those. How do those plans relate to CVRD, the OCP, and any of the actions and policies of
sorry, taking back to that. You know, the idea was meant to provide an avenue to recognize uniqueness in certain neighborhoods, but really the OCP is what carries the weight. It's like the legal framework for all the bylaws that flow out of it. So while they're kind of a nice to have, they're a little bit of lip service, if I can say it that way. Not totally, but it's really the OCP is what matters. And I'm sure most people know there's a pretty big vote coming up next Wednesday, so it might be moved. I have no idea how that vote's going to go, but you know, Sierra acted from again, she put forward a notice of motion last month to repeal the OCP, so I'm sure there'll be a lot of interest about that and lots of debate.
Just a really quick note. For those of you that want to maybe discuss this topic a little bit more in depth, we'll definitely hang around afterwards. I can tell you that my colleague Joe here, he spent a lot of time and effort on the Advisory Planning Commission, working not only through the MOCP but local area plans. Love to talk further. We could spend all afternoon on that one topic alone. So let's not do that. We can talk.
Awesome.
Of my many questions, I'll ask one. Thank you. Joyce Benson, we live in North Cowichan. We also own property in Cowichan Valley. So my question, taxation. It seems that I'd like to know what is an end date on this, on a created tax? So I'll use the example at North Cowichan, Climate Action Energy Plan. That's a tax that was approved in 2013. They call it CAPE. Climate Action Energy Plan. It's a 0.5% tax, but it's interesting because it was supposed to, the goal was, quote, to reduce the emissions in North Cowichan. And I've approached many times the municipality and council, and I've said, we have Trans-Canada Highway running through North Cowichan, and how do we control the emissions? So it's a 0.5% tax. And I just want to say, I've asked also the question, what's the end date? Now, also the CVRD had a referendum in 2018 for the Cowichan Housing Association tax. When do these taxes end? So 2 years ago, on budget time at North Cowichan, the CFO, Chief Financial Officer, suggested that they they don't charge that tax that year because the tax increases were growing, and they ignored her and decided that they still needed to try and control climate. Anyway, they've changed that animal many times. It's been a slush fund, I've said that to them. They've used it for many things, grants and heat pumps and supporting and suggesting whatever. Now it's become the fire management tax or some such thing. So what I'm saying is these taxes that get approved, where's the feedback and the involvement, this is my question, from the taxpayer? When do we get to speak up and find out what's going on and what control can be on that tax? The housing is, so just as an example, 0.5% tax is about, I think about 200 grand, I think, at North Cowichan. It used to be 175, that's increased. Anyway, and I think it's about 250 at CVRD for Housing Association. Find out what they're doing with that office. I'm asking, where's the public's involvement in making this tax that's never ending mean something or go away or quit? They become slush funds, I'm just telling you. And I've got lots of information on it, I can't get into all of it, of course, right now. But I'm saying, where is the public input and where and when and how do we find out and what do we have to say about it? When the staff themselves are saying, put that one aside for this year, 0.5% on the tax increases and stuff. So that's my question, thank you. What can we do? You've heard me before, Mike.
Many times.
No end date and not a real reason, it's a slush fund. Sorry.
Yeah, we've been over this many times.
And never resolved.
Hey Joyce, I think
So, the thing is, I'm not saying.
You need the mic, please.
I'm not saying that you're wrong. I'm not saying you're not right. It's just that there's an election coming up, and I think that's an important time for you to bring something like this up. And you bring it up all the time, which is fair. And I agree with you in a lot of ways. I mean, I'm the chair of the EAC committee, and so that's the entity that looks at where that money is going to be spent. And that's an existing fund that was, it was created before I was on council. And we've been looking at that this whole council term. It's only just recently that there's been an opportunity for us to have a look at that fund. And so in the future, after the election, if I'm elected and on the municipal council, that's something that we can bring up later on. But right now, just before an election, I think that it's something that's going to have to wait until after that, so we can get a mandate from the public to either maintain or take that out. And speaking about the wildfire part of it, I think that wildfire protection is probably one of the best ways to probably spend that money. I think that, since the money is already there and existing and has to be maintained within the function that it's done, we might as well use it for something that I consider is worthwhile.
Mike, you made a good point. I forgot to mention that this has been in the millions of dollars.
Sorry, Joyce.
$2.5 million.
Sorry,
And reserve funds.
Joyce.
Thank you, Mike, you hit on it. The money's sitting there in millions.
Joyce, I'm going to cut you off real quick. Sorry. Let's remove policy X out of the equation. Mike, do you have any feedback on how a resident of North Cowichan or a resident in CVRD can come up to a council or to the CVRD itself and voice their input on policy X or whatever it may be? So when you talk more broadly, not about an actual policy or... Hey, Jesse, for me, absolutely.
I'm just really curious, who here lives in an electoral area? So, about half, and then who lives in a municipality? Yeah, it's about half, right? That's how that math works. So I'll speak just quickly about electoral areas. Like, as you saw, there's 179 services now. So you can really break it into three areas. You've got your regional, which would be like Banks Creek, right, which we all pay into. Your sub-regional, which would be like Saltaire and Ladysmith, working on the dam together and funding that, and then your local levels. So when you see the headline number, I fought pretty hard I put a motion forward to cap our increases to 2.5%. We landed at 3.87 after a long year of deliberation. So, but that headline number really doesn't tell the whole story. If you're in an area where your mill rate changes, what they call it, which has to do with property values, that can dramatically affect the percentage you pay. I know in Area G, I think we were right around 6% was the increase, even though the headline number was 3.87. So there's local things that you can pay into community centers, parks that would impact your taxes dramatically. So, I mean, the number one way to, I think, increase or decrease your taxes if you're in an elected area, like get to know your director. I mean, we're all politicians, and like we don't go into this not thinking that we have to win elections, we have to listen to people. So I think, I mean, that's where I take my cue. You know, and then if you're in a municipality, obviously your council meetings are pretty big, and then making sure you've got a good representation at the CVRD. So lots goes into it. It's, you know, but overall, sorry, the last point I wanted to make. I think the number one way to manage expenses at the CVRD is to give a solid mandate at the beginning of the year to the staff and saying, this is what we want to see. You guys go do the hard work, look at those line items, and bring us back a plan that matches what we want to do. And I think this last year was the first time since I've been elected where we really gave a strong mandate and it was met. And we got pretty close to what I was looking for. So.
Awesome. Thanks, Mike. Thanks, Jesse. Appreciate those. Mike, do you want to weigh in a little more?
Absolutely. Actually, to speak what you just spoke about, Joyce, Ms. Benson, sorry, Charles, you know, how to put input to North Cowichan, what is CVRD? It works in both cases. I mean, for us, I mean, the video that we saw today really had a good indication of what you should be doing, and that is, first of all, send us an email. We all have our emails. Send us an email. We answer all the emails, and if we don't answer the email, if it's more for the whole council, not just for individual director or, in my case, a councillor, then it will be dealt with by staff. And then next, come to our meetings. Every Wednesday we have meetings, either a COW or it's a council meeting, or for CVRD, it's CVRD meeting, which is happening next Wednesday, 9:30 in the morning. So come in, you can do public input, you get your 3 minutes, you can speak, and we listen to everything that people who come in public input say. I mean, that's one thing that I think, a strength that I have is I listen to everybody, and I take everybody's opinion in account. And so, and I think that's a real strength of mine. And also, it can also come as a delegation. There's 3 different ways you can be in contact with the municipality, or in the case of the CVRD.
Great, thanks, Mike. Thanks, Jesse. Yep, I'll just make a quick reminder. If you guys don't mind putting the mic to a little closer to your mouths, and let's try and keep the noise, chatter, and tobacco to a minimum, please, so we can just get no staff experience. So,
Very quickly, Charles. Part of the question to answer that is, we're all involved in this, and there's 2 items that came up in about 2010, which was the water function and the housing function. They were both $750,000 a year they could tax for. That was a referendum. You voted on it, and it passed. So remember that? Remember how many people voted? That was part of it. So the water one and the housing one did not pass in the Cowichan Valley area at all. But if you don't stay involved, stuff like that gets through. So it's a lot of taxes. Now it's up to, it's not $1.5 million, it's now what, $1.75 million a year or something like that. They take every year. So just be aware.
No, thank you for that. And Mr. Wilson, did you want to chime in as well?
Yes, thank you very much. Yeah, we've got 2 mics here, unfortunately.
Oh, as you know.
Yeah, that's okay. Joe brought up some very good points here. The first one is the low turnout at local elections. We've got to improve that, because otherwise you're going to get stuff voted in on referendums, and that was a low turnout as well, which the majority who didn't vote sometimes don't take any notice. We've got to start taking more notice, and that's why this particular gathering is great. Let's have some more of these, and we'll see if we can raise some elsewhere. As far as the taxes are concerned, the CVRD, I put the 2025 mill rates through an Excel spreadsheet and said, okay, how do you work, what are the components of the $5,000 tax bills that you get? And it actually comes out that the CVRD portion is about $2,000. The rest of it is made up of school tax, rural provincial tax, Millway Fire Department tax, Cowichan Hospital tax, all these other ones that the province hits us with. So bear in mind that CVRD part of it is 41% of $2,000, and we're working on that and bringing that back down again. So if anybody wants to see this chart, I can show it to you.
Great, thank you, gentlemen. Any other comments? No? Okay, thank you so much. We'll open the mic to another question, sir.
It's Colin Craig from Area D. You've answered a lot of the questions already for me. Area D supports both facilities in Duncan and the facilities in Mill Bay, where they were taxed on both ends. And I was told that it's absolutely irreversible. That decision was made. Is that true? Can that be reversed? We've been also, our taxes in Area D are the largest increase, I believe, in CVRD. Correct. The only other question to ask, is this sustainable over the long run? We're constantly, these large tax increases based on percentage, based on the property value. So, I don't know if people here, the things we fear most are BC assessments and these percentage-based tax increases. So, if you have to have a nicer property, a bigger piece of property, it doesn't necessarily mean you have the income to match that. It just things happen that way. And down the road, a lot of these older, and again, up in Yugu, those waterfront owners, some of them don't want to piss in, and they're literally taxed off their property because of the way the system is set up. And along with BC assessments, which is correct, is a part of the government and their tax base. And anyway, what have you got? Is it sustainable at the increases we're doing every year?
Great question. So I won't speak specifically to the situation of Area D residents being taxed for both Kerry Park and the services in Duncan, but you're absolutely correct on that. So yes, those things can be changed. Whether it requires public assent to do it or not, I'm not sure. Fairly specific question. You can speak with us afterwards. But I just want to speak very briefly. I didn't weigh in on the last question around a specific question around can you get out of a tax or not. So I've done 18 CVRD budgets. It is by far the most complex energy and soul-sucking exercise that a director can be involved in. So I've done 18, Joe did 22 before me. They are incredibly complex. Now I could sit before you today because I checked some numbers before I came here. In my electoral area, I have exactly the same tax rate that I had last year. So 0 increase. I can tell you that I'm taxing the residents of Area F at a lower level this year. It's about $2.64 million is coming out of Area F from all of the services. 5 years ago, it was $2.754 million. So the actual amount of dollars coming out of Area F has remained basically static for 5 years. But guess what? You mentioned it, BC assessment. That's the variable in this. The elected officials can do a great job at holding the line, but if there's been a change a dramatic change in assessment, either up or down, that will have an effect on the tax notice that I guess everybody's getting right about now. I just got mine. So I'll share this with you. We can talk about it afterwards. CVRD taxation and budgets is the most complex, difficult part of an electoral area director's job. And it takes a while to get all of the variables and factors under your belt so that we can do it well.
Jesse?
Yeah, just really quick to answer the question. And again, this is my personal opinion. Is it sustainable? No. It's been dramatic increases for the last 8 to 10, 12 years, in my opinion. And then on top of that, just this year, you can no longer defer your property taxes until you sell. So like I know in Saltaire that we've seen a huge boom in the houses going up for sale. So, and can it be undone? Yeah, anything can be undone. Just my personal take on the CVRD board, like ideologically, we're divided almost 50-50. So when I take up something, I've really got to pick my battles because it takes so much energy to be political at the CVRD board table and to get people to see your side of things. So it's not just one person might want it undone and the other person doesn't. And so, that can be a real big challenge. And then you've got to take it to the staff to get them to implement. So, one last little anecdote. I put forward the motion to cap our increase to 2.5%, and I remember people saying, that's going to mean we're going to have to cut. I said, how is an increase of 2.5%, which equals, a couple $1 million, how is that considered a cut? So, there's a mindset right now that to fix our problems, we need to add, and I just don't fundamentally agree with that. So.
Mr. Duncan.
Thank you. Back to Joyce. Joyce hit the nail right in the head, maybe bend it over a bit. In local governments, federal governments, provincial governments, very seldom do you see any function, any task taken on, decrease, very, very seldom. Private sector, cutting all the time, eliminating whole divisions. We never do that. I'm not sure why, but one of the questions, one of the things that was missing from the slideshow, local governments aren't allowed to borrow for operating costs. Provincial governments borrow for operating costs. Federal, hand over fist, billions, billions. We cannot. So we have to balance the budget. We can borrow money to build a hockey rink, something like that. Concrete construction. We cannot borrow for operating costs. That's why you see these numbers that you say, how can inflation be 2% and we're at 8% up? It's because money cannot be borrowed and the will is there to increase the dimension of the function. I hope that helps.
No, thank you, Mr. Duncan. I actually learned that myself. I didn't know that. It's actually very beneficial. Very beneficial. Thank you.
This does not allow the local government to borrow for operating costs. Or rather debts.
Only the province and the feds could do that too.
Yeah, that's the way it is.
Yeah. Thank you, gentlemen. I appreciate your input. Mr. Westland, nice to meet you. How are you doing? Question.
Yes, it is. So, Peter Russell, I live in North Cowichan, and it's so great to see so many people out today taking part in their democratic rights here and giving feedback to our regional folks. And that's great. Mr. Wilson spoke to that about the urgency and the necessity for people to do that as a direct pipeline to local government without parties involved. My question is, now, it's about the Cowichan Valley Economic Development Cowichan. This function, as far as I know, is now dead. And nearly every question you have heard so far today has been about money. How do we get it? How do we spend it? And ultimately, that type of money comes from residential taxes and business taxes as well in the CVRD. My question is, the former Economic Development Cowichan was ineffective, and partly because the CVRD did not demand annual results indicators, as in, these are the businesses we helped bring here. That was not part of their mandate. And in fact, no one that I know of can name one business that the EDC brought here. The idea is more business, that's new tax money coming in. So my question is very simple. As candidates and current directors, will you resurrect Economic Development Cowichan and make it results effective and accountable to taxpayers, perhaps from a referendum? Thank you.
Also, we can open the floor to that. If anyone wants to input, we won't make this a campaign speech or anything like that. But if you want to weigh in from an individual and your own personal thoughts of it, feel free to.
I think I'm obliged to speak first as I sort of championed the removal of economic development. You know, and I said this at the board table, I'm still pro-business. My whole life I spent, if I wasn't running my own business, I was in sales or business development of some sort. So there's nothing I want more than to see a vibrant business community that thrives. But government doesn't create business. People create business. It's the people, and they need to have the freedom to get started and to make mistakes and to not have regulations getting in their way. I personally think that if we just picked 10 random businesses and gave them part of that $1 million a year, it would do way more than 5 bureaucrats sitting in an office down the street. So. And that's not to say that economic development can't be successful. There are jurisdictions that do it, but what I saw time and time again is they came to us with good ideas, and we had a board that didn't want to implement them, but they could say, hey, look, we are pro-business development, we're spending $1 million on it, and then we didn't follow through with the policy. So that was a real, I fought pretty hard on that one for over a year, and if the climate changes and we can put some metrics to it, and I'm all for supporting local businesses, farmers, all the people in our community, but right now, there's got to be some fundamental changes in the way we think the board table.
Mr. Wilson?
I'm just wondering why I'm Mr. Wilson and everybody else is Jesse or Mike.
Because you said there's 2 mics.
You take me out to dinner first.
Yeah. Economic development, I've never been a great fan of it. I've been trying to get rid of it for a considerable time, and I wouldn't bring it back again. Every single director, every single councillor, to me, is his own economic development advisor. I can speak to people. For instance, TELUS, economic development tried for years to get TELUS to expand in Cobble Hill. We only had short. Well, guess what? We've now got full fibre throughout Cobble Hill because I spoke to people. We can do the work, and it's not going to cost you anything extra. Go and people in the conferences, that's what they're there for. They're not just there so you go and fill up your goodie bags with freebies. They're there to go and talk to the people who are there. As far as business is concerned, I will push them as far as I can to get stuff going in here. Economic development, to me, is not the way to go. And that's as blunt as I can be. Thank you.
Thanks, Mike. Mr. Allen?
Okay, a little bit of historical note here. I've seen economic development come and go, I think, 3 times while I was there. And what killed it every time is the people that we put on the economic development were really pro getting stuff going. But when you make recommendations to the politicians, it didn't go anywhere. So they get frustrated and quit. So unless you have a group of elected politicians that can direct the staff to get stuff done, remember, if you're trying to get a business going and you run into a whole bunch of bureaucracy, it's not going anywhere. So you have to have everything ready to go for business. So I say, don't have an economic development committee if you're not going to listen to it and you're not ready to implement some of the stuff that they ask for. Otherwise, you're wasting your money.
Sorry, before we go on, pass it on to Mr. Duncan. I saw his hand up real quick. Mr. Duncan?
No sad at all. It's nothing. You know, you say, how could you? That's an old story. It's been done a few times already.
So we don't have an economic development function any longer, and that was to Ms. Benson's comment. It's a service that has now been wound up. And I'm going to agree with my colleagues here that the fault of the success or failure of that particular function, I say rests with your elected officials that were making decisions over those years, and I was one of them. We needed to transition to exactly what my colleague over here, Jesse, was saying. We need to get out of the way of business so that they can do the things that they do, and that's job creation, wealth creation, and I'm just going to put in a little bit of a plug. Electoral Area F has had its largest building permit in its history of 40 years, with a $6.6 million building permit for a industrial business on Highway 18 just opposite Palmy, and job creation lands, and that's what we need. If we want people to live here, they got to have somewhere to work, and that's a really great, exciting bit of news that there are people coming to the valley, they are starting businesses, or they're expanding their businesses. It's really good news. I wanted to share that. Thanks.
I just want to give you a perfect example of how this works in practice. Yesterday, I went on a tour with the North Cowichan Council, the mayor, for Western Forest Products. We've got 2 state-of-the-art dry kilns that they've just implemented, and they're producing higher quality wood. They go from about 60% to 87% of the wood coming out is high quality now, and it's about half the cost to push that wood through these kilns. So it's amazing stuff. And at the end, we were asking questions. I said, you know, what made this all possible? And they said, North Cowichan, permits were quick, fast, responsive, and they made it all possible to get everything done. They said it was the best they've ever done with. That is how you create wealth. And now they're taking this product to market. They employ, you know, hundreds, thousands of people, Western Forest Products. So I mean, that's a perfect example of how economic development should happen, in my opinion.
Thank you, gentlemen. Thank you, Peter. Thank you for the question. That was good engagement. Next question, please.
Thank you. Brent Taylor from Area B. My wife and I came a relative newcomers to the Cowichan Valley. We've only been here for 35 years. When we arrived, we wanted to be part of the community, and we looked out to what was available, and we joined a Parks Commission, and then I got involved in the improvement district for the water, and so there was a real community involvement. And if I think back, if my memory is correct, the official community plan for Area A at that time, which is where we lived then, was 60 to 80 pages long, and the first page was a list of the people that contributed, and they were all members of the community. So it was truly an official community plan that was a vision for the area. Somewhere in this last 35 years, we've moved to staff-driven, consultant-driven, community-excluded form of governance. So my question is, how do we get back to less regulation, more community, less staff?
Full disclosure, Brett and I were neighbors years and years and years ago. Great question, and for all of you that have been suffering through over the last few months, I'm in complete agreement with his comments, but this isn't something that has just been struggled over for months. This has been at least 18 months. It's been on my desk, working with the gentleman next to me. We definitely need a full shift to OCPs for our own communities. I don't want to take up the whole afternoon with this, but I can tell you that just before this process started, my advisory planning commission took a 78-page document, which was the Area F OCP, and got it down to under 40 pages, including maps. So my simple map is something like this: 40 pages, 9 electoral areas, 40 times 9 is 360. That, including our taking out the duplication, we should be able to do a document that reflects all of our needs in a heck of a lot less than the one that's currently on the books. And if you didn't know, it's 800 plus pages.
Anyone else like to weigh in on this question?
Yeah, I will say, yeah, we're dealing with the OCP at North Cowichan at this time, and you guys are dealing with it in the CVRD. You know, being a municipal director at the CVRD, we don't get to vote for the OCP or the CZB. You know, but sitting back and seeing, you know, this here and all you people here is a direct result of this OCP and the CZB, and the fact that it was not implemented properly. It's brought everybody out, and it's awakened the sleeping giant, in my opinion. This is a good thing. Out of something bad came something good, because now people are aware of how much the CVRD and North Cowichan, City of Duncan, City of Ladysmith, all those areas, and how we at this table affect your lives on a day-to-day basis. That comes with zoning, bylaws, it comes with an OCP. You know, the new one, 800 pages, as it was mentioned by Ian, it's just unbelievable. And the cost that the CVRD paid to Modus for that OCP is, what was it?
1.4 billion.
Thank you. $1.4 million. That's a lot of money. And so,
Cookie cutter.
yes, and you know what? We've been dealing with this on a daily basis at North Cowichan. People come to us and they wave the OCP as a flag, and they say, "This is in the OCP. This is what you're supposed to do." It's not written in stone. It's not something. It's not the Bible. It's something that's a living document. This is my opinion. It's something that's a living document that can be changed. That's why we have amendments to be allowed to be made for an OCP. And so the best thing that's come out of this whole process with OCP is the fact that you as residents of the CVRD and North Cowichan and those other communities now know how much we affect your lives, and you're willing to come out and hopefully come out and vote in the next election. And anytime there's a referendum, come out and make your voice heard, because it's so important to have your voice heard.
I'll be quick on this one, and I'll speak from personal experience. I think one of the most important things you can do, and this is more specifically for electoral areas, is demand or support a candidate that commits to having multiple community meetings every year, right? Where they get up just like this, without the CVRD there, and talk to residents and have questions to go back and forth, not where it's public input period and then it's question period at the end. That's the most important thing, because when I see Ken Horsley come out and Greg Main, I know I gotta be on my best behavior and make sure I'm doing right for my community. And it's nerve-wracking, but I committed to that. I do 2 every year in Saltaire, 1 on Thetis, and I go over to Penelope, and they put my feet to the fire. And I think more of that, you know, we're in a unique situation in Saltaire. 1 road in, 1 road out, we're almost a bit of an island. So I know some of the other areas are more fragmented. Those community meetings, that's where all the good stuff happens. So that's my opinion.
Yeah, thank you. Let's talk about the CZB. We were given a copy of that on a Friday afternoon before the 27th meeting on the Wednesday. So we had basically 4 days to read that 350-page document. And when it was presented on the 26th, I think, of March, I spoke up at agenda approval time and said, I can't approve this agenda. I have not had time to read through this, but what I have seen so far is a big mistake here. We should not be discussing this here. Things that, hello, I've gone off. No. Because of the way meetings are held, if that agenda had not been approved, then nothing else on the agenda could have been discussed, so it went forward for discussion. And sadly, what I feared was going to happen exactly happened, which is why we had this great big backlash against a document which has absolutely no joy in it whatsoever. It's all full of, and if you pardon the expression from the Bible, it's all about thou shalt not. And that's not right.
Yeah.
Actually passed it through Gemini on AI and said, summarize this for me. And I think about an hour later it came back with 40 pages of it, which was better, but it's still something which has woken up. I think the phrase was used, woken a sleeping giant, and that's exactly what we need. If we need more sleeping giants to know that they are here, that when the election comes forward, go out and vote. Otherwise you're going to get the same old same old. Thank you.
Okay, I think you can see with the massive 850-page document, how did it get here? Like, how did it get here? Well, you've heard, like, there's different things that are going on, and we need to fix the whole works. Like Mike was just saying, it's part of it is like the agenda process and how the directors get their information. It has to be changed. The input system for like the 850-page document, I was involved in it. We put stuff in and it didn't seem to matter. And we went to a public hearing where only 2 people spoke in favor of the OCP. And how many, 80 or something, spoke against it? It went forward without I don't think any change at all. Like, so this whole attitude, this process, has to be backed up and looked at seriously. And that means look at your directors when it comes to election time. And then the directors have to be given a mandate to sort of clean up and streamline the process that's caused a lot of this problem. It's, you notice that? It's like, you get a question about the economic development. Well, that's a direct result of that same type of attitude that we have. Was we got to get things cleaned up so we can get economic development, so we can have small OCPs, so there's not, like, we went from an area, we had 2, I think, development permit areas, and then we got 10 out of it. So in other words, we used to be able to just do things with only a couple of, permits needed. Now it's 10 minimum. Like, how did we get there? We got to clean this stuff up. That's my, and that won't come until we get the direction we need.
One more quick thing, and I mean, the ultimate backstop is you folks, like that OCP and the CZB wouldn't have been stopped in its track without public outrage. And so, keep that up and then, get aboard, empower a board, take the win there with the mandate. So.
Thank you, John. We're going to take the questions now. Sorry, maybe I should have said it a little earlier. So we'll finish off with the 2 gentlemen that were waiting here. After that, we'll break. We have the venue until 4 p.m., so we'll be tearing down. But please stay back, talk to our elected officials, either past or current. And Jesse, just want to let you know it is 3:10 now.
Yeah.
Just in case. Little girls important. Family first. So I get it.
Thank you.
You're more than welcome.
Thanks, Jesse.
Thanks for coming. Okay, our second last question, please.
Robert Cross from Showing right here to be. I've had lots of concerns within the area for about 35 years. I see, standing about 20 miles away, to you area directors, it's the CVRD that's the problem. It's not so much people, I see. One year, in the spring, the CVRD posted in the paper that they had a surplus of dog licenses. So it's all part of it. Just those hidden fees that maybe you don't have control of. And then in the fall, they raised them. And this seems to be the pattern of the CVRD. And seeing how things take a long time with developments, and permits. I have friends who just wanted to put a deck on their house. They couldn't put a deck on their house because they had to get a $5,000 environmental survey. And you said that they increased they created a new system for 7 people. I don't think we've ever had a look at the CVRD's costs. I tried to get a hold of the planning commission person and I can't get a hold of them. I think on Mondays and Fridays they have a pro E day. So let's take a look at their contracts, their labor contracts. Like, why do we not get stuff done? Like North Cowichan seems to be that they get stuff done. I don't even want to mention the word blank to us, but you go in there for something, question, and it's handled immediately, within an hour. Why is it the CVRD? Oh, well, leave a message. Even my area director, area B, now she wants to put millions of dollars in the Baldy Mountain. The park that I live by, $90,000 a year maintenance costs for a ballpark. And not all season is about 2-3 months, and we spend $90,000 a year. I see that the chipping that they put around the track, half is dumped in the bush. I go by there and I see it, and I go, why is all this chipping? I know it's like probably $500 a load, and the lucrative contracts the CVRD likes to have. Like, and consulting, other places, they have building inspectors. These guys are trained carpenters or whatever they are, plumbers, and they do their inspections. Why do we have to have a consultant who will tell us and pay $280,000 to say that there's mold in the ceiling of the gymnasium in Lake Cowichan? I said, it doesn't take long to see all these things that they're just wasting their money on. And I would like, and I'm asking you, councillors, if in the next election, or maybe even before then, why you just can't make a motion in council and say, we want to review, or we want to start another committee, because you guys are busy. You can't look at all that. Let's have accountants, let's hire accountants. You guys have the power to say, hey, think outside the box. Let's have an accountant take a look at the CVRD, and maybe some consultants take a look at the CVRDs and how much money they get paid, and their efficiency, how many days off a week they get, and all their contracts.
Can we just pass it over then, and just to make sure we maximize the time? Thank you, sir. Thank you very much. Opening forward.
Yeah, it is a really great question. Why does it take so long? Why do we have to do this? Why do we have to do that? I ran some other numbers as well as far as maintenance is concerned, parks maintenance. Parks maintenance comes to nearly $6 million a year throughout the region. And that's 10% of our total requisition. And I've asked why is it costing so much to do this? I'm still waiting for the answer on that. But somebody mentioned the number of functions that we've got. We've got 179 functions, call it like budget centers, whatever, they're functions. And I've been asking for a service review for many, many, many years, and I'm still asking for a service. Why do we need 179 functions?
Why can't you just make a motion to do that?
I tried it, and change is coming. It takes a vote to make a change, to get a motion passed. And hopefully change is coming, and that's why, again, you are part of the change here. But change is coming. We're challenging everything that we see.
If I can weigh in, I know the moderator, I probably shouldn't be doing this, but if I can weigh in just an attitude, like, you're a concerned citizen, but you have the power as well to impact, not just by through a vote. Go talk to the current councillors or directors and just say, how can I help you get good, hardworking, like-minded people onto the council to help you? And come talk to me afterwards. I can't say this over the mic, but we just did that. We did that last year.
Yeah, because my area director doesn't listen anyway, so just, you know.
Come talk to me offline, and I'll tell you some more. All right, cheers. Yeah, last question, please. Oh, sorry, if there's more, sorry. Yeah, Mike.
Mike. You know, this comes back to what we talked about earlier, I talked about earlier, and that is the public input. Come out, make your voice heard. It's so important for you to get out. Joyce Benson comes to all our meetings. We hear her voice every week. And Joyce always has a lot of good things to say. And she holds our feet to the fire. And you know what? That's fair. my father was on the City of Duncan Council for 32 years, and there was a guy who used to be a pain in the ass for him. He used to phone him at 3 o'clock in the morning and write into the paper. And, you know, I said, yes, you do, Joe. And so the thing is, I said to him one day, I says, after he had a phone call at 3 o'clock in the morning, and my mom was all upset, and he was, you know, pissed off. And I said to him, he says, Dad, why do you put up with that guy? He says, Mike, he says, he holds our feet to the fire. And you know what? He keeps us honest. It's people like him that keep us on the straight and narrow. So come on, vote.
Those are such prophetic words, and I just want to give you a really quick example, because we've talked about a little bit about the MOCP, we've talked about individual OCPs and local area plans and comprehensive zoning bylaw. I want to bring you back to something that happened in this term, and it's part of the CVRD's corporate strategic plan, and it's a thing called a regional growth strategy. Now, I don't know about you, but do you think we might already have enough regulation in the CVRD? Well, I'm going to share this because I can't tell you which meeting to go back and look at the video on. But while we were developing our corporate strategic plan and the idea of a regional growth strategy was put forward, we had a vote, 15-1. In favor of pursuing a regional growth strategy. Now, you think we got enough layers of bureaucracy now? A regional growth strategy just adds more, and it's even more restrictive. So thank goodness for people like this guy, all of you in the room, and my colleagues who came around to finally put that to bed. We're not doing a regional growth strategy in this term. And it's the influence that you have and common sense that we were able to push that back. So within the space of a term, we went from 15 of the 16 directors were in favor of pursuing a regional growth strategy to that group is now the minority. So you have the power to use it.
Lord, you please.
Out there was talking about the cost of parks and recreation. When you create a trail, it doesn't need 2 staff people 7 days a week lurking about it. When you build a swimming pool, many people that work there 7 days a week, and the costs are very, very high. But when you look for recreational opportunities, take some of the low-hanging fruit. A trail through your community can be addressed and taken care of for a small cost compared to building some infrastructure that houses staff. And that's not an anti-staff thing, it's just that they cost. You make the decision, these people that make the decision, buy into all of that, now you gotta pay for it. You that.
Oh, great point, thank you. Any other feedback and comments to make? Awesome, thank you, gentlemen. We'll move to our last question, please, sir.
Thank you, David Pink, Area E, known as Mr. Troublemaker. My question revolves, and maybe, I don't know if it's pertinent now, but my question revolves around the staff's answer, the CVRD's answer to Bill 13. And I've read a bunch of stuff on it. I am by no means informed on it, like you folks are, or the staff is. But I just see it as another very egregious bill. And from what I understand, June 30th is the provincial government's cutoff for that becoming law. And there's nothing that I've read in that is good. What it does is it allows developers to go full bore right from the very beginning. No stage 1, stage 2, stage 3, stage 4, no having to put up. In fact, we are going to return land that has been set aside for parks or potential parks based on these developments. Now, I might not have all of this right, but the bottom line is it's just one more pile of cow dung on top of an already really interesting and difficult situation for us in the community. So, yeah, we're all showing up to cancel the OCP, which is also an unnecessary thing in this community if you look at the books. But we are really going to have to show up because every single person in this room is going to be so drastically affected by the changes that the government of British Columbia's Bill 13 brings in. And the staff of the CVRD had options. One of them was about figuring out the financial considerations of all of it. And they chose to not do that, but take the easy street and just make it all happen. And just say, no, we're going to make all these changes, community by community by community. We don't even have an OCP anymore, but thank God we don't. But if we just cannot make those changes on our behalf when we A, don't have an OCP, and B, none of us really understand what the hell it is we're trying to do. But if you look at it and read it, we're all getting screwed. So I'd like some answers to that, and I hope like hell somebody's bringing a motion to the table on the 27th to stop this thing and force staff to do the proper accounting that needs to be done so that we understand what we are getting and what we are not getting anymore based on the changes Bill 13 is going to make. Thank you.
Open mic. Anyone like to provide some feedback? Some comments? That's a good one to end it off with, eh? No? Okay. Awesome. Very sorry we don't have much of an answer for you, sir, but we appreciate your question and give it one more go. Anyone wants to? There you go, you there.
I can't give you an absolute specific answer. Like each one of the letters that went out was individualized to each property owner. But I'm going to say this, and it was touched on a little bit in the presentation. We are the end point for mostly provincial downloading. And I'm going to tell you what's happened in the last couple of years because I've served you on the Union of BC Municipalities executive. I've served at the Association of Vancouver Island and Coastal Communities, and I can tell you what is very different. In the past, our provincial governments would come to our elected associations and negotiate the terms and conditions of legislative changes that they wanted to do. Well, in the last couple of years, the provincial government has taken a very, very different approach. They've announced the legislation, enacted it, and then after the fact, they go to the local governments and say, well, they don't even want to know what we think of it. It's just implement, implement, implement. There's been no prior consultation. They fill in they give you the sketch and the outline in the legislation, and then they fill in the fine details after the fact. Provincial downloading costs each and every one of us every time a new one comes forward. That's the big issue, and that's an example of the Bill 13 stuff.
Yeah, you can have follow up.
So what that says to me is, when you look at politics, we have really no say or influence for sure at the federal level. We can never go and talk to Parliament. We can, if we have a really good representative, you can go and talk to your representative, but they don't really have much power unless they're the governing party. It's almost the same in the provincial government, but I can tell you the strongest government that exists in this land, and we need to make sure every single neighbor, our enemies, our friends, our co-workers or whatever, we hold the power at the municipal level of government all the way across this country. It's the only place we can have any influence. So we need to get out the vote. We need to make it look like we want it to look like. And people, if you can show up on Wednesday, I have a very major business at its busiest time of the year. I've taken 5 days off of my business to make sure that I'm at the CVRD to speak and to hold people accountable for what it is they're trying to do to us in this community that I have lived in for 57 years. and I love it, and I don't want, it's not that you don't want change, but I definitely don't want to see the kind of change that's being brought in now. Stand up, folks, keep doing what we're doing.
Thank you so much for that question. Should we try to ask a question? I just want to give a shout out to everyone wearing the headpiece right now. This is our security who's actually volunteering their time here today. It's a company known as J2 Cell, and we're very appreciative. They volunteered their time. They're ex-military or ex-police. So thank you very much to the security personnel. J2 Cell. If you guys need security, go talk to one of them. They're excellent guys. Shane, I'll let you ask the last question, sir.
Thanks very much. That was a great lead into my question. So I'm from the Cowichan Valley. We're facing what emissions you guys are, and maybe worse depending on what we're talking about. So my question, I'm going to do a little bit of a lead on, lead in very shortly, and then I'll have a question regarding motivating people to vote. What we're doing, what a small group of us are doing up in the Cowichan Valley is, we've been organized for a while, but we're trying to figure out how do you get the messaging across to people? That's the big one. We had 26% of our voting populace show up for that last municipal election, lowest amount ever. And you know whose fault that is? Each and every one of the people sitting in the same chairs that you'd be sitting in because they became complacent. It's up to all of you to go out and start talking to people and motivate them. Start talking about the issues. Don't be afraid anymore. So we're also, one of the, some of the group members did, they started getting into some advanced AI. Not because they wanted to, but because they saw the value in it. And it has dug up so much factual information and dumbed it down so that what would take us 2 or 3 months to research is done in a day. That's how you have to organize yourself. We've done presentations for council. We're starting to scare them because nobody's ever presented that kind of information. You got to start thinking outside the box if you haven't already, and start organizing yourselves and talk to people. Get it online, on Facebook, on these political groups that we've seen started up there. It's working. Getting the message out. We have to get people to talk about it. And a big part of the reason people are voting is because they're saying, well, politicians don't do what we want. They don't listen to us. Well, that's because we've become complacent. We don't stay involved after we vote. So for God's sakes, motivate people to stay involved, keep them educated and informed. So that's my question to you guys. What sort of insight do you have to, yeah, we got to go out and vote. We keep hearing that. How do you get them? How do you get people to go out and vote? That 64% that never voted last time.
Great question. You have the CZB. You have an OCP that people get like. How to get people to vote. That's why you're all here tonight, or today, sorry. I mean, when something upsets you, you show up. And so, as the electorate, and the people who make the decision on who sits at this table, who sits at the director's table, and who sits at the council table around there, I think you have an obligation. I've always, since the age of 13, because I had it drummed into me because my father was a politician, that it's so important to vote. And without a vote, okay, I have this saying that if you don't vote, don't bitch. Because in all reality, it just goes to show you don't care enough about your community if you don't go and vote. It's the most important thing that we can do in a democracy. Look around the world at countries that don't have the ability for you to sit in a room like this and voice your opinion. There's so many countries in this world where this would not be allowed. And so I'm saying to you, as the electorate here, and as the residents, and as members of CVRD, and as municipalities, go out, make sure you vote. I know I'm harping on that, but it's the most important thing you can do as citizens of Canada.
Awesome. Joel, I'll let you finish off with the remarks.
I think I remember the good old days when The reason it was such a low turnout was because you didn't have to keep an eye on these guys. You know, that's what it was. When you elected somebody, you knew they were going to do the best thing for you and weren't going to overregulate you and all this stuff. So I'd like to say I'd like to get back to that, but I don't think we ever will. So I think what we have to do is make sure that this election coming up breaks the records. And I want to say, I don't know if you know, but I've dabbled a little bit in social media. And one of the things that I've noticed is now that people are involved, we got to stay involved. And we have to stay involved. I know we're going to get a lull over the summer, but come September, you're going to see us hitting it hard here. We got to break the record here for local government. The local government election is so important. So I'd really like to thank everybody. Thank you very much for coming out, and actually the whole CZB thing and the whole OCP thing, thank you very much. If it wasn't for the people in the valley, we wouldn't have turned this around. So you deserve a pat on the back.
Maybe that needs to be a slogan across the province. You don't vote, don't pitch. Post it up.
Okay, well that concludes our question and answer period. To the panelists, thank you so much for taking your time this afternoon. I'm going to conclude with just two last points. And after that, if you want to mingle with the residents or the people, we appreciate your timing. We've got the venues at 4 o'clock. So before we get going, of course, I think Joe just finished off with alluding that we have a municipal election come up this fall. So I just want to open the floor. I think it's very important, especially to the residents here. If anyone is going to take the leap and actually run, after the hour, I think some questions we just went through. I don't know who in the right mind would want to, but if there's any brave and courageous souls out there, I would like you to stand up, please, just so you can identify yourselves. All right, awesome. So, keep your hands up. Let's go from left to right. Try to get late in. Sure. You said you're running? So you're running for Area Director Shongan? And what letter is that again, sorry? B? B? Yeah, Area B. Okay, good for you, sir. Good for you. And what's the name, sorry?
Oh, it's Robert Cross.
Robert Cross. Okay, thank you, sir. Appreciate you standing up, running for your community. And we'll go next. Can you saw a hand there with the heart? Hey, Kyle. Shongan as well. Good stuff, good stuff. Appreciate it, Kyle. And jump on back.
Chris Wilkinson, future mayor of North Cowichan.
Good afternoon. Thanks, Chris. And moving over.
Blake Frost, running for Area E.
Also, please, Blake. And gentlemen, sir.
Yeah, it's Shane Ryan. I'm going to be running for Mill Bay Malahan. Andrew Stein, and I'm running for Area D. Cowichan Valley.
I just heard a comment that I kind of want to touch on it real quick. Don't split the vote. If you have a concern, go talk to them. That's what I was going to talk to the gentleman in the white shirt. Name already slipped my mind, sorry. Robert Cross. Yeah, we'll be talking for sure. That's what I was going to pass on. Go talk to these people. These people need volunteers. They need door knockers. This is how we, I'm moderator, I shouldn't say this. This is how we engage our communities to get the people from their houses to the ballot boxes, the polls, right? So we have to motivate them somehow. There's always going to be that one item that they're pissed off about, that they want to get out of the house and go vote on. It's our responsibility to find that topic and get to the front door and tell them to get out and vote. So go talk to these people. These people are taking the leap and standing up for their communities. How can I help you? Go ask them. Awesome. Okay, that's one thing I want to conclude with. And then the last thing, which is awesome, we have a t-shirt draw. So I'll call Savannah up here. We'll do a draw opportunity for a t-shirt. Get you on the time.
Okay, is everyone looking at their ticket? Yeah. Okay, 02427688. No. Oh. Yeah, you got it. Great. That was easy. So you'll be able to choose from, I think there's like 5 different ones up at the front there. You can choose whichever one you want. The remaining 4 can be spot if you want. There's also a table where you can choose a shirt and a design and have it made for you. So to go see Evan for that. We also have popcorn that is being run by my lovely daughter Sienna. And Anna has something to say too. Don't forget to get your hot dogs on the way out. Yeah. Hot dogs over there and refreshments are free. And there's tables for people that have come that would love to talk with you. So please stick around, bring drinks, keep it on, and keep this fun. Yeah, hot dogs, please.
Yeah, we're just live streaming. Sure. Same question. Listen, I wanted to ask. Hey, nice to meet you, man. Nice to see you. I ran in. Thanks for joining us, everyone. Civics.